So you finally decided to pick up Warframe, play through the tutorial, did some missions, and now you're wondering where to go from here. You've seen some videos about people doing crazy things, doing massive amount of damage against enemies, and you're wondering how to get to that point. Well, then this video is for you, because I will explain the absolute essentials of information that you need to get your Warframe career going and get your way around the game. So the very simple basics of Warframe is you obtain loot, you use that loot to level the loot up, and you leveling up the loot will give you mastery points. And mastery points can be viewed right here. Is this little white bar. If you fill up the white bar, you can do a mastery rank up and go to the next mastery rank. Next mastery rank will grant you more loot to obtain, which you can then use to get more powerful. So, loot comes in many shapes and forms, such as warframes and weapons. In general, to get the master rank points out of them, you're going to have to level them up to their max rank. For most items, that is a level 30, and in certain cases, it goes above level 30. I'm not going to go into why for now, but just know that certain exceptions exist. So, that is the first part of the loop, is getting to the new master rank to unlock new loot. Now let's go to obtaining new loot. And the first, most simple part for new players is to simply go to the market and go over here and then over to weapons. If you click on weapons, it will show all the weapons that you can obtain, but you might want to filter for specifically weapon types such as primary weapons. Over here, you can either buy weapons for simple credits, like this baton. You can buy the blueprint of a weapon, in which case you will need to gather some resources and then you can build the weapon to obtain it, again for credits, or it will tell you how to obtain the blueprint of the weapon. For example, here, the recipe for Basa can be researched in the Tenno Lab Dojo Room. If that is too vague of an explanation, you can then Google, hey, what is the Tenno Lab Dojo Room? And voila, there you go. So, of course, only a few of these weapons will actually be buyable for raw credits, so generally you're going to have to gather resources to obtain them. Furthermore, when it comes to warframes, even though you can like buy the blueprint here, you're gonna need parts for the warframe. So the neuroptics, chassis, and systems of a warframe are what you're gonna need to get the actual warframe. And those things are all obtained by playing missions. So let's take the next step and go over here. This is navigation. Here you can view all the missions that you can play. Missions are located on planets, and planets provide different kinds of resources when you play on them. If you go over here and then make sure you click resource drones, you can see what resources you can obtain to playing on a planet. So you simply go play through the missions. For the missions here, there are some basic types. For example, exterminate simply requires you to kill all the enemies, and then you can leave. While with capture, you kill a specific enemy, then interact with them to capture them, and then you leave. But there's also missions such as defense, where you're what we call an endless mission, where you simply defend a stationary defense objective against waves of enemies, and every once in a while you are given the option to leave. Um, Generally, you don't want to like stick around in these for too long until you reach the point where you actually just want to stay because you're specifically farming for certain things. That said, these missions have kind of variants that you can play through as well. For example, if you clear all the missions on a given planet, you unlock nightmare versions of missions. These are slightly harder variants that have a modifier. For example, this one drains the energy of my warframe so I can use less abilities, but in return give me extra rewards in the form of a nightmare mod. Similarly, uh, this variant of the mission allows me to open up what we call a live relic to obtain extra rewards, but at a cost of it being a slightly higher level, so it's slightly more difficult to play through the mission. Looking for these mission variants can be a bit tricky sometimes, so to put it simple, you can go over here to filter for variant mission types. For example, void missions like the one at Mariana are listed here, and the nightmare mode missions are filtered here, and so on. Now, of course, you don't want to play it on just Earth, you want to get to other planets as well, and you get through those by junctions. Junctions have some very simple requirements, for example, complete a quest, collect some mods, apply mods, and upgrade mods. That will unlock a little boss fight, and once you get through the boss fight, then you can go to the new planet. In the new planet, you can once again play through the missions, and then, there's another one where you can unlock again a new planet. And in general, you just want to play through the star chart and unlock as many planets as possible. That said, for your early game, there are some essential pickups that I think you should grab on each planet. So on Earth, you want to unlock Cetus and the Plains of Eidolon. This is one of 3 open world locations in the game, where you have a very large open area where you can do missions in to level up your reputation at a faction. Leveling up the faction will then give you additional benefits. And those benefits are very much worth it, so try to do some of those missions. On Venus, we got Fortuna and Orbelis that work in the identical way. And then we got the boss fight Fossa, which you can repeat multiple times to obtain parts for the Rhino Warframe. Rhino is a very good Warframe because he's very hard to kill, allowing you to focus on completing missions instead of having to focus on actual survival. So he's definitely worth picking up. I already showed you where you get the blueprint, again from the market, and then the parts you get from here, and then you construct the parts, and then you combine them into the main blueprint to construct the entire Warframe. Then on Mercury, there's not really anything different, important, and then after that we go towards Mars, and then at Mars we can go to Deimos. Deimos has the Cambion Drift and the Necrolisk, although there's currently an event going on there, so it's named differently. And those are the third open world level. Other than that, you got the assassination mission for Levantis, which is another boss fight, where you can obtain the Necros Warframe. And this is another really good one because it can increase the amount of resources you gain during missions. And of course, since you're very early, you need those resources to build new items, so having a Warframe that increases your loot drops is honestly just invaluable. And lastly, at Deimos, there is something what we call the Dragon Vault farm. I'm not really going to go into it too deep, but you can find little vaults on the missions that are in here, and open them up will give you unique types of mods that are really, really, really important to get your early game kickstarted. So if you want to know more about that, you can go look up a guide for that. Again, I do not want to go in it too much. So that is the basics for the star chart. Now in the rest of the orbiter, let's go continue the tour. Over here to the left, we got something called syndicates. Syndicates, you can pledge yourself to a syndicate, and then by just simply playing, you will level them up and giving you additional benefits, such as unlocking certain weapons, for example, these right here, or getting special mods that can improve certain warframes. I suggest starting with either Hexis, Suda, Loka, or Perrin, because that will in the long term unlock you more rewards than if you were to go with Redfill or Meridian. Alright, and we got that out of the way. We then move on to right here, which is the Codex. With the Codex, you can track your quest progressions, as well as check out stats on warframes, weapons, enemies, mods, and so on. This is like basically a little wiki where you can look up certain things. It's quite neat to have access to. And then lastly, before we go downstairs, we got the Nightwave system. This is basically a miniature free battle pass where you do these objectives to level her up, giving you rewards. Among these rewards are credits, which you can then spend on items. Among here, the most important items to grab are the aura mods, which I'll get into it in a little bit, as well as what we call the blue potato and the yellow potato. Those are very important because there are very few other ways to get these, and they are pretty important to have. So try to spend your credits on those items, at least at first. Alright, now we go downstairs, and we go to the foundry. In the foundry, you can build the items that you obtained the blueprints for. You can do a little search, for example, the air support right here. But I can also look for certain examples, things that need a certain item. So plastids. If I type in plastids, it will filter for all items that require plastids to make. Furthermore, if you're not sure how much you have of a certain item, you can go to components, and here you can see your inventory of craftable item, like resources. And you can filter here for different kinds of items, and you also have the in progress tab where you can see items that you're already building as well items that are ready to claim. I highly advise against rushing the construction of anything. It will cost platinum, which is relatively hard to obtain for a new player without spending real money, so do not do that. Instead, spend your platinum on extra slots. If you go to the market, you can obtain slots for warframes and or weapons. I highly recommend spending your starter money on 2 sets of 2 weapon slots and 1 warframe slot. This allows you to own more weapons and warframes at any given time. Again, the entire concept of the game is to get loot, max it out, get rid of that, and get new items. But sometimes you want to keep items, and that is how you can keep more items. Alright, now you have obtained some items. For example, you have obtained your Rhino. Mine is called Rhino Prime. Not really gonna go into primes or other items for now like that. But let's simply go and look at how to make any gear good. Because at base, anything here, like your warframes, your weapons, they're not going to be very good. And you're going to need to install mods to actually make them worth using. So to install mods, we press upgrade on your item. And you get a screen looking like this. And you have like these slots right here. Sometimes there's going to be little symbols in the top right for them, as well as some unique slots up top. So mods are rather simple. You have slots where you can slot in a mod, and a mod gives a bonus effect. For example, this one gives plus 110% increased armor. However, mods have 2 things that limit what you can put into your like loadout, which is the capacity drain, which is right here, 14 in the top right, as well what we call a polarity, which is the little symbol right next to the 14. So slotting a mod into any given slot will just put in the regular amount of capacity. Capacity you can see right here, and you need to have enough capacity to slot in the mod. If we slot it into a slot that has a matching symbol, it reduces the drain by half. If we slot it into one that is not matching, it increases the cost instead by roughly 20%. So make sure you always slot in either a neutral slot or a slot that matches. However, just because you have matching slots does not always mean you have to have a mod in there that has the matching slot. Sometimes you want to just leave it empty. Now let's look at capacity. So capacity, to increase capacity, there's a very few things that you can do. So first on, your capacity is always going to be at least your master rank. So in my case, 27. I will never have any item that has less than 27 capacity, because it simply upgrades the capacity of any given item to at least 27. You might be master rank 1 or 2, in which case the minimum is 1 or 2 respectively. Then next, leveling up the item will increase the capacity. So leveling up to 30 will increase the capacity to 30. And then step 3 is what you could do is install a potato. Again, the ones that we mentioned earlier, they're very important to have to make things very powerful, because the potato doubles the capacity of your Warframe or weapon. So in this case, that's where we go to 60. And then the last thing you can do to increase your total stats are the hour mods that, again, I mentioned during the Nightwave part, where if you slot them in, increase the capacity. So as mentioned, having a matching slot doubles the effectiveness of the mod. So the hour now gives plus 18, so I go up to a maximum of 78. Alright, then let's take a look at what you can do with mods themselves. So mods are generally pretty simple. They improve certain stats. For example, this one improves his armor, this one improves shields, and this one improves ability duration. Now, Warframes tend to care about different things. To put it simple, for Rhino Prime, you tend to care about armor, ability strength, ability duration, and ability efficiency. That is because if we look at the abilities for Rhino, as mentioned, he's a tank. Pressing 2 on his kit will give you a improved health pool that enemies need to chip through before they can actually damage you. So in this case, you get 5.8 thousand health. If you look right here, this guy had 300 health at base, so nearly 6,000 bonus health is a lot. Similarly, Rhino can also improve the damage that you do. In this case, it will give all your weapons an 84% increased damage output. And these stats you can improve by increasing the amount of strength of your weapon. So the amount of armor and the amount of damage increase is dependent on strength. But the increase in armor also affects the extra, gives you extra bonus strength on the ferret armor. And the duration affects the duration of how long roar lasts. And the ability efficiency determines how much energy you use when activating these abilities, so you activate them more often. It goes to the point where this Warframe cares so much of certain stats that it's willing to sacrifice other stats, for example, bonus strength at the cost of efficiency. And yeah, that is the general basics for Warframe modding. For Necros, since I did mention that you should pick that one up, you want to go for efficiency and duration. Because that will make his third ability, which is the one that increases your loot drops, last much longer. Alright, that's Warframes. Let's go on to weapons. So weapons are divided by primary, secondary, and melee weapons. And there's also a subdivision between shotguns and rifles in the primary slot. All of the different weapon types use different mods with different names and strengths, but the general effects are going to be the same. For example, each different weapon type is going to have a mod that just flat out increases damage. But if we look at, for example, rifles increase damage, it is plus 90%, while the pistols increase damage is plus 220%. So there are like different balances between the weapon types. But to increase damage on weapons, it is honestly quite simple. You either increase the amount of bullets you fire by either doing a multi-shot, which turns any given weapon into a little shotgun that increases the amount of bullets fired per time you pull the trigger, or you increase the fire rate, in which case, more bullets come out per second. In general, we at Warframe prefer to use multi-shot because multi-shot mods tend to be stronger, 120% versus 90%, and fire rate also negatively affects your ammo economy and also increases the amount of times you need to reload. So, in generally, favor multi-shot. Second option is the increase the amount of damage you do per bullet. And that, of course, can be simply done by doing an increased damage mod, or you can do a mod such as this one right here, which increases a certain amount of elemental damage. There are a lot of different types of elemental damages. Not going to go into those too much for now. Just know that the ones that say plus cold, heat, toxin, or electricity are much, much, much better than the ones that say plus slash, impact, or puncture. Never use these and instead use these. Another way to increase the damage of a bullet is to go for critical damage. Any weapon has a chance to do a critical hit. Or in this case, with this mod equipped, I have 36.1% to do a critical hit. And then we can improve the critical damage because once this we do get lucky and we get a critical hit. In this case, we'll do 3.7 times increased damage. Some weapons can reach like absolute insane amount of bonus damage by simply building into crits. Lastly, there are status effects with status chance, and these are a lot more complicated. For now, all you need to know is that applying a status effect can either make your enemy weaker, such as cold, making them slowed down, or viral, giving them increased vulnerability on damage against their health, or they maybe do damage over time. For example, slash makes them bleed extra health over time, and this is generally a more complicated thing. So to keep things simple, what you generally want to do for any given weapon is to increase the base damage, add some heat damage to it, and increase the multi-shot. Melee weapons are slightly different in that, of course, they don't have multi-shot because, how would that work? Instead, they have a simple attack speed. And increased attack speed does not affect ammo because, it's a melee weapon, it doesn't have ammo. So you would put that in instead of multi-shot, and it otherwise would still work in the exact same way. That said, mods themselves also need upgrading. Because, for example, this house chamber gives a plus 20% multi-shot, while this one gives 120. And for that, we go to the mods button, or you exit your arsenal and you walk over to the mod station. So upgrading mods is pretty simple. For example, I'll go grab this armor mod, and you click start infusing, and you press the plus button to upgrade it. Upgrading is a trade-off. Increase the effectiveness of the mod, but it reduces the drain. I mean, the amount of energy it costs is also increased. But the way this works, it also increases the efficiency of the mod, because some mods cost a lot of base energy for the effect, and upgrading it gives you a lot more of the effect compared to the only marginal increase in cost of the mod. So it is generally worth more to have a few upgraded mods than to have many not upgraded mods. Mods are itself obtained by simply playing the game. Some mission types can reward mods, certain enemies can drop mods. You might be able to find a nice player that might want to trade you some of the more essential mods if you have troubles obtaining them. But definitely try to upgrade mods where you can, and yeah, that will make sure that they are powerful and that they will actually make your build worthwhile using. Um, to level up a mod, you're going to need credits again, and you're going to need endo. Endo can be most easily obtained by dismantling spare mods, or just by playing the game. If you want to mass dismantle a lot of these spare mods, you can click on the middle mouse button to select all copies of a mod, or you can click on it, go up and then down one if you want to keep one copy of the mod, and then you can sell them for endo, which you can then use to upgrade your mod. Lastly, let's talk about credits for a moment. Credits in the very early game might be a little bit hard to obtain. So these are two places where you can get them more easily. First one will require you to go to Ceres, and then you can go to Gabi. Completing this mission will grant you 20,000 credits. So you stay in it for the minimum requirement of 5 minutes, you leave, and you repeat for 20,000 credits each time. Sadly, this is literally just the best you're gonna get in the early game. There's not really any better options up until that point. Going all the way to Neptune, however, you can unlock the index, where you spend some money to get a lot of money back. So, for example, you spend 50,000 money to get 250,000 back if you complete the mission, which will net you a profit of 200,000. Lastly, maxing out at Fortuna can give you a boss fight that is even more efficient than Index, but that is definitely a more long-term goal to have. So with that, we've got how to obtain gear, how to obtain the resources, and how to obtain credits and endo. Let's talk about the last part, how to obtain platinum. Because as you may have noticed, the only way to get the more slots is through that. And, you know, that's a bit of a problem because we don't really want to spend real money like whenever we need those. So let's talk about how to obtain platinum for a second. So any spare items that you may have may or may not be tradable. For example, mods are tradable items. And there are some other things that are tradable as well, such as prime parts. Um, not really going to go into primes again for this video. And you can trade those to other players and get platinum for them. So there is a website called warframe.market. Link will be in the description, where you can list any spare items you may have. It will also tell you what price other players are selling it for, so you will generally put it at around the same price. And then you'll simply wait for players to message you like, hey, I want to buy this. And then you go and trade with them, and that's how you gain platinum. Um, can be pretty slow when you get started, but once you get going, you'll have more spare items. You do trades more often, and that's how you keep yourself sustained on the platinum economy as well. So that is the absolute essentials for any given new player. And yeah, hope this helped you get started. If you have any questions, you can comment down below. And otherwise, good luck, Tana, and have a good day.